I want to show you something now, right?
Go on.
Look behind you.
Okay.
Look at that typewriter. That's mine.
Hey.
That is mine, bruv.
Is that where it all started?
That's where it all started. I think it's almost 100 years old.
Can you remember the first thing you typed on it?
Yes, I can actually. The first full poem I typed on it was a load of rubbish, where I just wanted to prove a point. And it goes, wonder, wonder why I live, my heart and soul to life I give, upon the wetted grass I lie, if death should call me, if I should die, in vain I stride for need and require, no smoke can dark my burning fire, cool breeze I desire, strong winds to take me higher than the fire. It just goes on like that, right? But the reason why I typed it was because in those days, about 11 o'clock, the BBC would say, now people, it's time to go to bed. right? And they used to go, good night, turn off the electricity, plug things out, and they used to read a poem. So I sent a poem in, I sent that poem in. I was only a kid at the time.
Did it get read out?
Yeah, and this BBC man read it, you know, wonder, wonder why I live. And then they had this debate about this elderly gentleman that wrote this poem, and me and my family were sitting at home laughing our heads off, and I wrote it on that typewriter. I'm the writer and poet Benjamin Zephaniah, here at the Birmingham Museum Art Gallery.
And I'm Robert Evans, and this is
Meet Me at the Museum. Yeah! It's a wonderful place, I think now, but when I was young it was really scary. You've got these old buildings and they've got great big bricks, and I used to look at them and think, how were they made? What kind of men and women put this stuff together? And it's a cold day, and the clock tower is at the right time? Yeah, it's actually got the right time. Oh, the person you can hear is my friend Robert. I used to hang out with, actually, me and his dad were best friends, so I've known Robert since he was a kid. But are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're not cold?
I'm getting there.
All right. I've got a lovely long jacket on, and
I've got a few layers on underneath.
oh, okay, all right. The last time I was here, actually, I came for a couple of meetings, and it was all about how to make museums, especially a big kind of almost stately home they have in Aston, how to make it relevant to the community there. And that's a big thing I feel passionate about, making these places relevant to the people today. So, Robert, how do you remember this place?
You don't really take much notice when you're a child, but
No.
looking at it now, I'm starting to see, like you said, the effort that went into
The
it.
work that's gone into
the
it.
effort and all that. I mean, how old is it?
It's a bit older than me and your dad.
I'd say so.
Anyway, you're going to go inside?
Yeah, we'll go inside.
Let's do it, because it's cold out here.
It's getting cold now.
So we are now in the reception. It's so boomy.
Boom.
We could do some toast in here. Live the life you love and love the life you live, as I would tell you about the sound that come and don't lead the way, as I would say, wow! That's if you're into your reggae. If you're not, and you're just into museums, we're in the reception, and there's kind of posters on the wall telling us about world cultures, Birmingham history, ancient civilizations, pre-Raphaelite. I love that word, a Raphaelite. And we have to say there's no one here today, is there?
No.
No, we have the museum to ourselves, more or less.
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
That'll be a new one on all of us, I think.
I know. Now we're going to go up these really grand stone steps. I was going to say marble, but there's some marble around. Oh, I just love these old buildings. But how long ago was it since you've been here?
I brought my children here I was thinking about it earlier, about 18 years ago. Would have been
18
the last
years
time,
ago?
Yeah, it would have been the last time I come in here.
Right.
But they would have been making a lot of noise coming up these stairs. Dad, what's going to be up here? What's coming up here?
And did you say, oh, you got to be quiet? It's
yeah,
a museum.
that's what it was. Quiet. We're going into the museum
I don't
now.
think it's like that anymore. Kids don't have to be quiet in museums anymore, I don't think. When you were a kid, did you come here? When you were a baby?
My mum brought me here when I was really young.
Right.
Would have been about 85, 86.
So now we are at this kind of reception desk where normally it would be really busy with people kind of handing over their national art pass. You get discounts when you go to paid for exhibitions, and you get 10% off in their cafes and their eating places. So Robert, how old are you?
41 now.
41?
Yeah.
Oh, how good it is to be young. You see, as you probably know, you've probably heard all the stories. Like, I used to hang out with your dad when we were like 13, 14, 15, way up till our kind of late teens. I mean, your dad was unique because your dad was the only white guy hanging out with all these black guys. I just remember him, you know. But he was like really into reggae. I remember me and Trevor were like really embarrassed. We went into his house and this little white kid played us all this Jamaican reggae stuff, and he would be telling us stories about, I mean, Bob Marley wasn't famous then. Bob Marley and his life story and the different reggae singers. And me and my brother were looking at him and going, this white dude really knows his reggae stuff. And I have like real special memories of growing up in Birmingham. And although I don't live in Birmingham now, every time I kind of arrive, they all come back. Yeah. And I took Birmingham for granted. And every time I used to come in this area, I used to look at the buildings and the museum and everything, and it was just another world for me. There was a part of me that kind of resented it. I kind of felt that this was for the special people, the people with money, the people with times on their hand. So then when I grew up, I left Birmingham because I wanted to be a writer. And you know my story. I mean, I got in trouble with the police, I went to prison and all that stuff. And I felt that the only way to kind of better myself was to move out of Birmingham and go down to London. And when I went down to London originally, I kind of hated Birmingham. It was like, it was where all the police were. It was where all those white people that hated me were, you know. All those buildings that I didn't like that I felt oppressed me. Okay. And then when I got to London, everybody mocked my accent and laughed at me. Is there a word for patriotic to a city? If you know what I mean. Maybe there's not, but, you know, I got more Brummie. Yeah. I would just get very defensive over Birmingham. And then I just started to learn more about Birmingham. Then I started coming back and started visiting the museums. And then I just got really interested in the history of Birmingham. So the reason why I wanted you to come here and meet me at the museum, is because I wanted to kind of exchange notes with you in a sense. First of all about Birmingham generally, and then about the museum and your memories of coming here. So when I said to you, meet me at the museum, did you go, yeah, wow, you know, I'm really looking forward to it? Or did you go, why is Benjamin sending me to the museum?
Well, to be fair, I'm glad that, because otherwise I probably might not have come here for another 20 years.
Right.
So it's done me a favour in a way. Yeah, because like, I mean, I'm old enough now, I haven't got the kids around me, I can actually have a look at some of the things that are around instead of worrying about the kids.
I think I just want to get a taste of Birmingham. I just want to see some characters from Birmingham, a sense of history, not just artifacts. Artifacts is one thing, but I like the stories behind them.
So it'd be nice to see some of the comparisons we've got from different generations, like some of the things that you've done in your life and I've done in mine, and we can compare them.
Yeah, all together in Birmingham. So let's go then. So Robert, this is the exhibition I wanted you to see, or one of them, and it's called Birmingham Revolution's Power to the People. So come in, and here we are. So this gallery is basically about protest and kind of protest movements in Birmingham that have kind of made its mark on the city. I'm looking over there. Let's have a look over here quickly. All these photographs of the riots and demonstrations in Birmingham. Actually, I'd left Birmingham by this time. But the thing was, they were happening in London and Manchester and Liverpool and places like that anyway. I mean, it was kind of a national thing. But you were a bit young for this, wasn't you?
Yeah. I do kind of remember the riots.
You remember the riots?
I remember the riots from about 85, 86. I remember Lowell's looking like this. Lowell's Road with a burnt out car, and it would have been, I'd say, the day after, the night before. I
think that's when the post office got burnt down. I think somebody got killed in it,
maybe,
if I remember correctly.
But yeah, I remember we had to come out of school early. We all had to come out of school early because the riots had got so out of hand. There's a picture of you looking younger than you do today.
Yes, yeah, I was younger. There's a picture of me with my head in my hands, not in a negative way. What does it say about me? I've never read this. Oh, as one of Britain's most influential writers and poets, Benjamin Zephaniah used the social and political landscape of Birmingham in the 1970s and 1980s to drive his writing. That's absolutely true. That's what I was saying to you, I used my experiences to kind of inform my writing. I had to, because
that's all you need.
I didn't have an education. I didn't have some people will have a great education and that's what feeds their writing. So what have you got? You've got your experiences. Yeah, that photograph was taken by Poga Caesar. I can't remember taking it actually, but it's me, for sure. He's a great photographer, Poga Caesar. He's done a lot of photographing the black community in Birmingham. I'll tell you what really frustrates me. I come from this place. I'm not talking about Birmingham now, I'm talking about a particular place in Birmingham with a particular community who are really proud of me. But most of them don't do what I do. They don't visit libraries, they don't visit museums, they don't visit art galleries. And I can't blame them for it sometimes. I think they're so kind of taken up with just getting on with life and struggling and surviving to get on. But I had to think really long and hard about who to invite to the museum with me, because I know that a lot of people would have just gone, I don't know if I want to go to Museum Benjamin, what's there for me? It's not just, visiting museums and art galleries. There's people in my family and they will talk about me for ages. They're so proud of me. They haven't read one of my books. They're just proud of all these achievements. They're proud of seeing me on television and everything. But they've never actually sat down and read one of my books.
So we've come over now to one of these display cabinets with what looked to me at first as a biker's jacket. But now looking again, it's all a denim waistcoat with, in excess of probably 50 badges on. And now I've realised that it's got more to do with the union and the government at the time.
And what does that say?
Coal, not dole.
Yeah, coal, not dole, you see? The miners' strike. No, for us, the miners' strike was really, really important. It was kind of not just the miners' strike, it was very symbolic of Margaret Thatcher, who wanted to go one way, and there's no other way of putting it, like working class people who really wanted to go another way. Working down coal mines is not a nice thing. So it's not just everybody loves working down coal mines, but it wasn't as if she was saying, right, all you miners, we're going to take you and we have a plan, we're going to train you to do something else. They were just left. So it was like, in my lifetime as well, it was one of the most liberating things for women as well, because the miners generally were men and the women were at home. But no, these working class women came out of the home and started demonstrating alongside men, and they started organising. And I did lots of gigs for the miners' strike, which were organised by women.
Okay.
So it was a very, very important moment. You look at this jacket, does that look strange to you? Because I'm going to tell you that people walked around with jackets like that, covered in badges. If you want to meet a girl in the club, you'd go up to her and then you'd look at her badges to see where she is politically.
That definitely won't happen in my time.
You know what I mean? Check her out politically. You know what I mean? It wasn't polite conversation. It's like, where do you stand on the miners' strike? Where do you stand on the Falklands War? Whatever it was, I want to show you something now, right?
Go on.
Look behind you.
Okay.
Look at that typewriter. That's mine. That is mine, bruv.
Is that where it all started?
That's where it all started. And I'm going to tell you what happened, right? There I was, minding my own business, playing in Birmingham, in Aston. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, and he's like a sergeant major, right? And he goes, young man, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I went, I want to be a poet. He says, you want to be a poet, do you? Wait there a moment. And then he went away and he came back and he gave me this typewriter.
Oh, wow.
And I could hardly pick it up and carry it. It's so heavy. I think it's almost 100 years old. It's a very clunky typewriter, but I love it. And it's never left me. And I don't know what happened. Somebody in the museum said, would I like to kind of exhibit something? And I said, I've got this typewriter. And they said, we'll have it for 2 years. And I said, okay. And after 2 years, I went, can we have it for another 2 years? So, okay. And then another 2 years, and it's still here. Can I have my typewriter back? No, it's cool. I feel it's in safe hands. And when I brought it here, I remember when I took it out of my car, and one of the tops of the keys fell off. I couldn't see it. So I brought it in, and I said to the guys at the museum, I said, I've got the typewriter, but one of the keys has fallen off. And I remember a whole heap of people outside. You know, when you're all looking for something, you're all looking for a needle in a haystack. It was like that. Everybody was looking, and eventually they found it, and they glued it. So the museum even reconditioned it for me. They got it working properly because it wasn't working very well at the time, and fixed the thing for me. So actually, I'll let them keep it for a bit longer if they like. I started getting political at quite a young age, and I started writing about it, you know, and that was the typewriter I started on. And it kind of helped make me the person that I am now. I guess it's saying that, look, there's banners in that room, obviously, and there's lots of things that people took on demonstrations, there's badges and all that kind of stuff. There's all these different ways of fighting, and using a typewriter is one. Okay. In the old days, they say the pen. Yeah. The pen is mightier than the sword. The typewriter is mightier than the sword, okay. You know, because it kind of saved my life. I mean, if I didn't focus on writing as a way of expressing myself personally and politically, I could still be in jail now. Okay. You know, I could still be, if not in jail, certainly an outlaw or an outcast. And so that typewriter helped me in my political struggle. It's helped me in my personal struggle. But if you think about the things that I've gone on to do, it has helped create change in Britain. You probably wouldn't know the sus law, for example, the law of suspicion. It was a strange law that was brought in to deal with vagrants, but the police used to use it against black people as a way of stopping and searching us. Okay. You know, my poetry and organisations I was involved in helped repeal that law. We got that law taken off the statute books. We've done things to help amend the Race Relations Act and bring it into the 21st century. So I guess that's why my typewriter's there. I'm just glad it's there. But I do want it back one day.
Would you ever use it again?
I'm not sure if I'd use it again. It's kind of clunky and it's old. I use it to just show people that it works, really, you know. But it hasn't got spell checker on it. Oh. So now, Robert, I'm going to introduce you to my mate. He's a trustee here. His name is Mohammed Ali, and he may be kind of loitering with intent through these doors if you just walk through. I think he's out here somewhere. Mohammed, brother, how you going?
Benjamin, how's it going, man? I'm good, thanks, bro.
It's my friend Robert.
Hi, mate.
Robert,
Robert,
Mohammed.
how's it going?
Let's walk round because there's a piece that I want you to show me. I've heard about it. I just want to see it in person. It's called a booth.
Yeah, it's a curry house booth. It's what many would be familiar with, the typical tandoori high street
here it is.
Restaurant.
Right.
And the typical kind of, old school booth with the kind of floral wallpaper and flock wallpaper we're all familiar with.
But it is a very important part of Birmingham history, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Knights of the Raj was in a 4-month-long exhibition where I'd recorded stories, collected objects that documented Birmingham's historic curry trade.
Oh, so this booth is like
a part of
that. A part of that.
It was a much wider exhibition.
Right.
Huge. It was great. And then this was the last thing that was kept permanently.
Right. So, Robert, normally people can't go in here, right? But me and you, VIPs, right? Let's sneak over. I don't think Mohammed's going to say anything. Let's go over.
I've been dying to get in there.
Right.
Now you go and sit. About getting my sandwiches out.
Sandwiches? You go and sit over there.
We're not going to get served a curry today.
Right. Now, if you were going to have a meal, what would you have?
I like the spinach, some sort of spinach curry.
I would have, spinach, sargaloo.
That's the one.
And chana and chanikidara. Oh, Mohammed, what are you doing there?
Yeah, I'm just taking your order, mate. What would you like? No trouble from you guys, I hope, today.
It's a great place. I mean, you've gone into a lot of detail here, haven't you, to make it really realistic?
For me, this kind of ornate floral wallpaper, you know, these kind of golden frames and the sequins you see sparkling, it's almost kind of Mughal-inspired interiors that you see, and the golden lampshade. I kind of wanted to kind of capture that, this world that we are increasingly seeing disappear. Actually, these interiors you don't see. No. We take it for granted, but they are disappearing off our high streets. So I wanted to get this ornate decor and things that we're all familiar with, and actually kind of capture it before it's all gone completely. I'll be honest with you, even sitting in this booth, for me, it evokes a sense of quite an emotion, actually, because you remember such fun moments of being in this space. And of course, for me and my father, memories of my father as well, serving at these tables to customers, as you guys are sitting here, right? I was here with my notebook, you know what I mean? And
so did you actually used to take orders?
Since I was 11 years old, I've been in the restaurant trade.
Right.
This isn't just eye candy, some fluffy interiors for people to reminisce.
This is deep for you.
This is deep. This is about generations of young people who had to adopt to British society. And those are the important stories that our museums must capture, so that we can show society how relevant museums are for society. Otherwise, they just become these fluffy places you go and have a good time when it's raining.
Mohammed really is a street artist. He started as a graffiti artist. Yeah? That's
Absolutely.
where you started. I think the first time I heard of you, I think the police told me about you. We were talking about outlaws in the city, and you were one of them. But tell us about how you started.
It's been a bit of a interesting journey, because, like you said, I would never imagine that starting off as a graffiti artist kind of through the 80s, being an 80s kid and being inspired by hip-hop culture, I would never imagine 2 decades later now I'm a trustee of my city museum, Birmingham Museum Art Gallery.
When you started doing graffiti on the streets, what were you trying to do?
To really cut to the core, it was about saying, I exist. I mean, that's in essence what any street artist or cave artist going back tens of thousands of years was saying, I am me.
What do you think your role is now here?
I almost see it as a continuation. Graffiti and the museum, I don't see them as two different things. We're continuing to tell stories. We're continuing to take art and make it accessible to the everyday people. As a graffiti artist, I was doing the same. I was taking art literally into people's lives, bringing a bit of color into the concrete jungle. And in essence, me being a trustee here now, it's about taking, this space of his heritage and the arts and letting it kind of penetrate the lives of everyday people in the city.
So what are you doing now in terms of your work to make the museum be more inclusive and representative of the people of Birmingham?
I'm very passionate about my city of Birmingham. I'm an artist that's still based here. And I realized with my art, as I'm traveling around and I'm benefiting other societies, I realized I have to bring what I can to the table for the museum. So I'm very, very passionate about changing things so that the museum is truly reflective, because we don't see it in our museums. These communities out there, they aren't really seeing this as something that belongs to them. And I want to address that. Only up until a few months ago, being the only non-white person on the board, which now has changed, to the point where I was on the panel, and I was very honored, really, to be selecting the new 2 chief execs that are now in post, that happen to be 2 people of color.
Right. We're in a room that says it's 18th and 19th century art, but in fact, we are standing in front of work, 3 pieces by an artist called Cold War Steve. Do you know him? Have you ever heard of him?
I've never heard of him before.
Now, he is amazing, right? He's this cat that kind of started doing kind of collages on Twitter and online. And he just does crazy stuff. I mean, in almost every one of his stuff, you'll find, look at this Boris Johnson and Putin,
Yeah.
right? And he just takes these politicians and puts them in crazy. Look at this Donald Trump running. They're all naked or semi-naked. To me, he says so much about kind of modern life in a very kind of simple, not simplistic, but a simple, not childish, but childlike way. Yeah. I just really like his stuff. And like I say, usually he's just politicians. But if you look at this one, so now we're in front of a big collage of Cold War Steves called Benny's Babbies. Babbies being the Brummie word for babies. It's in the city centre, but it's a whole mishmash of things. So we've got the HP Source building. And look, there's me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm there, like, I'm in the museum. He's got so much of Birmingham in there, and then all these Birmingham characters who...
Young and old.
Yes. Musical Youth, do you remember them?
Wow.
Pass the dutchie on the left-hand side. Pass the dutchie on the left. I just love it.
Who's out there?
Oh, it's Steel Pulse.
Oh, is it?
Greatest reggae band to ever come out of Birmingham, out of Handsworth, and they're up there, all my mates. I remember seeing them play at a gig in their school uniform. They literally just come from school. They didn't change. Now they're one of the biggest reggae bands in the world.
Is that Ozzy Osbourne up there?
This is the Rotunda, right? This is the famous round building in Birmingham. Yes, that's Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah. In fact, one of the houses I used to live in, Aston, right? If you went down my back garden and climbed over the fence, you landed in Ozzy Osbourne's garden.
Okay.
Yeah. The more you look at this, the more you see characters that you know.
The whole generation gap in here. I mean, like I say, you've got some of the young rappers, Mist, Lady Leisha, and then you've got yourself in between them all.
Yeah.
Some of these people I didn't even realise were from Birmingham, but it's more the HP Source Tower. I mean, I remember that growing up in Newtown and Aston, like the smell. It was like a vinegary smell. And it depended which way the wind was blowing that day, whether you get it in Newtown or whether you get it in Nechells.
Yeah. I too remember the smell of HP Source, yeah. There was also Ansell's Brewery, the beer brewery. You don't remember that?
No, it's just a bit before my time.
Some days you get the smell of the HP Source and the next day you get the smell of the brewery, the beer.
Yeah. Look at that, Don Christie's.
That's the reggae record shop, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you're right, this is kind of very multi-generational. I mean, a lot of these people wouldn't naturally be together in the same time. In the same.
Never.
But it's just a good, fun representation of Birmingham.
Okay, so we've just stepped into the Faith in Birmingham room. There's some glass cabinets with artefacts from all different faiths.
So, Robert, are you religious in any way?
I was brought up a Catholic. I'm not too sure.
I think the answer's no.
I still look up when I do something wrong.
You look up when you do something wrong?
Yeah.
I'll look behind me before I run. Anyway, I mean, I'm interested in faith. I'm not particularly religious. I kind of believe in God without religion, if you know what I mean.
Okay,
I think religion is man-made. But I'm interested in why people are religious and what religion does to a city and does to a community.
I've always believed that everyone needs somebody to look up to.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Isn't it really interesting that we kind of just automatically kind of ended in front of the Rastafarian exhibit cabinet? Rastafarianism was really important for me. I mean, I kind of was raised a Christian. Rastafarianism, if you like, is a kind of continuation of Christianity. And so, yeah, it's interesting that we just stop here, because Rastas don't really have that many artifacts. We don't really believe in lots of material stuff. And it's such a broad church as well. So it's interesting to see that they've got this here. And it's very good. Inclusiveness, you know what I mean? Well, we have... I'm not sure what that thing is.
Hi guys,
Hello.
I'm Lindsay Rutter. I'm one of the learning managers here at the museum. I project manage the creation of the gallery that you're in now, the Faith in Birmingham Gallery. So you've obviously noticed a few of the Rastafari objects you were mentioning a minute ago.
But I'm a little bit confused because that's Sikh, isn't it?
Yeah, so the idea with each of these cases, it's a mix of religions all together.
Oh, I see.
What we didn't want to do with the exhibition was to have this faith here and this faith here. It's to show the interfaith community of the city.
So is that the Golden Temple?
Yes, that's the Golden
I've
Temple
been there.
in the centre. Wow, really?
Yeah, it is a special place. Religions, I don't know, I think the religions are just people's traditions and the way of looking up in the sky and asking who we are and where we came from and how we got here. And it's always going to be informed by your culture.
Definitely.
So 90% of people who are religious, it's almost an accident of birth.
And that's one of the reasons we call it the Faith in Birmingham, actually. Faith rather than religion.
Right.
Because a lot of the objects in here and the stories we're trying to tell is about how faith plays a role in your life. That's, sort of food and activities and coming together rather than what you believe in and what you pray to.
Right.
It's more about how you practice it with your community. That was the idea behind it.
Brilliant.
If I take you over to the centre of the gallery, to an object that if you've grown up in Birmingham, if you've been here many times, you'll have seen before, and that's the Sultan Ganj Buddha.
Actually, I haven't.
You haven't?
No.
You shocked me. So this is probably one of the most important objects in the museum and one of the oldest. It was the second object to come into the museum. So it's the Sultan Ganj Buddha. It's the 7th century bronze standing Buddha from northern India.
I got to tell you, I got to be really honest with you. I wonder, how did you get it? Where did you get it from?
So it's from northern India. So
Wasn't stolen, was it?
It wasn't stolen,
right.
But it's a product of colonialism, it's
Right.
fair to say. So when the British were blasting for railway ballast, they discovered this statue buried in the ground. Obviously uncovered it. It was then on display for a short time before being bought by Samuel Thornton, a magistrate from Birmingham, and brought here. So it was paid for.
Right.
I wouldn't claim to say it was paid for by a rate that we would consider today. And it's been here for over 130 years.
It's been in the museum? For,
Yeah.
Wow. Longer than my typewriter. That's amazing.
A little bit longer.
When you say he was buried in the ground, was it the locals that were hiding
Yes,
him or something?
that is exactly right. So the Buddhist monasteries came under attack. So they hid their precious possessions.
By the British?
No. This is way before the British.
Oh, I see.
And it lay buried for about 500 years. So this is
Okay.
pre-British. While it's here, it's well used. So we have Buddha Day here every year, and the Buddhist community of the city come together to venerate the statue, to worship it.
Right.
And this room is packed. You'll have to imagine it, packed
Wow.
with chanting monks and flowers. Beautiful, really lovely.
You can't change the past. I always say to people, when we talk about Black Lives Matter and the inclusion of black history in the story of all of us, is that we're not attacking white people who are alive now and saying, you did this. Your ancestors may have did this. My ancestors did some bad things too. The history of black or Asian people is not all beautiful. We've got our dictators, we've had our rapists, we've had our massacres and everything else. But you've got to be honest about it. That's all we're asking, really, just to be honest about it. And I think as long as museums can understand that, they can start having a dialogue with us and also with people internationally. There are some artifacts that I think personally with the bigger museums that should be back home in their place. They're completely out of context, especially when it comes to worship and stuff like that. There's a way, because we're all connected now, of having museums linked internationally around the world. That's a win-win for everybody, and nobody's got to walk around feeling guilty.
Lindsay, have you got a favourite spot in this room that you're drawn to?
I do, yes. Yeah, let me take you over to it. It's just a short way. So my favourite object are these Jewish cookbooks. For me, these are really a beautiful reflection of what faith means to people in their everyday life. So the top cookbook is a modern Jewish cookbook owned by a local woman in Birmingham, and the bottom one is from her mother. Whoa. And as she left for university, her mum handed her the modern cookbook and said, look, it's over to you now. You need to carry on these traditions. And it's a beautiful symbol of their faith practiced in everyday life, and really relatable, because I cook every day and I use cookbooks. And so, that really speaks to me. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? I thought you were going to show me like a 1,000-year-old statue or something.
You'd think a museum person would pick that, but I think that's the beauty of this gallery, is we've got statues that are internationally important, thousands of years old, alongside someone's cookbook from nearby, and I think that's the special thing that museums can do, is to bring to life the internationally important next to someone's cookbook, next to someone's clothing or necklace.
I'm interested in religion anyway. I'm interested in why people are religious and how religions come about. But with all that stuff, for some reason, I'm drawn to this place. It's the street pastors.
Yeah.
I mean, that coat looked like it come from...
Go Outdoors.
Go Outdoors, something like that.
Yeah, trespass.
Why are they here?
Oh, yeah, there was another lovely piece. So Gerald, the gentleman that gave us this outfit, he volunteers as a street pastor. So what street pastors do, go into the community and try and make a difference in their own way.
Right.
And this is his coat that he would wear to do that.
So what are you wearing now? You ain't got a coat now.
I mean, I hope he has something else. Yeah.
He's walking around going,
I think
gotta
he
get
had
my
two.
coat from that museum.
Yeah, I think he had more than one. I mean, it's incredibly generous, and
Yes.
a lot of objects in here are donated and loaned, and they are people's precious items. So we're just so grateful that people would give them to us for a short time.
Brilliant. When I come over the Aston Expressway and I see Fort Dunlop on the right, then I see Aston Hall and Villa Park, and then I had this very special feeling like I'm home.
Okay.
This is the place I know the best. And I don't get that feeling anywhere else. You know?
get that.
Even though I've lived in other places, I've lived outside Birmingham now longer than I've lived in Birmingham, when I do the maths. I mean, I'm quite proud of this museum, which is strange. Like I said before, I didn't like it. It's just this big building and it didn't seem to connect to me. But now, quite proud of it. And I'm quite proud to kind of be in there. I mean, every time I come here, there's a picture of me somewhere or some mention of me. So I dragged you here today to meet me at the museum, taking you around now. Was it worthwhile? Did you enjoy it?
I've had a brilliant day. I
Cool.
really have had a brilliant day. It was great spending time with you and getting to see the museum as a grown-up.
Right,
It is more diverse now than it was before.
right.
One thing I found out today is that our upbringings, it was a bit more similar than I thought, and perhaps not to your personal experiences, but when you mentioned about what my dad was like when he was younger, I think like my life's been very similar.
Right. So, from our conversation and from what you're seeing here and the things with protest and all that stuff, you can identify with your father more.
Well, yeah, because I never seen that side of him.
Right.
Do you know, I never really seen that Rastaman side of my dad, if
Right.
you get what I'm saying.
I mean, the stuff I remember with your dad is just really being, as kids, it was just like, go out
And have fun.
and have fun. Yeah. And we used to get lost. We used to have fights. We used to discover old houses that we'd explore and stuff like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't hear kids having those kind of adventures now. I don't even remember coming to the museum with my school. I think my school was so poor, we didn't do anything like that. And but just generally speaking, even the city centre was a kind of hostile territory. But look how we've been welcomed here.
Yeah.
Staff have been so nice. I mean, I've had a really good day.
Would have been great if we got real curry and lager at the booth.
And vegan ice cream. Thanks for listening to Meet Me at the Museum with me, Benjamin Zephaniah.
And me, Robert Evans, at the Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery.
If you liked this episode of the podcast, please rate, subscribe, or just tell a friend. And you can show your love for museums with a National Arts Pass. It gives you great benefits at venues while raising money to support them.